Khan. Shalom, shalom, shalom. All right. Shalom, shalom. All praise to the Most High, man. So, yeah, man. All praise to the Most High. Khan, this is WFI Los Angeles coming back with another video through the Spirit and power Yahweh Ba'Shem Hamashiach Yahweh Shah, man. So, just it's a video, man. Like I said, these type of videos is just going in the Spirit, post camp, overtime, live stream basically through the Spirit. And topic I want to talk about, and a lot of times it would just be about what the Lord has me thinking about throughout the week, or it could be about something that we talked about during camp, or something that might have happened at camp. So this is what these lives are basically. The inspiration comes from. Now we know the inspiration comes from the Lord Himself. Pursuant to the book of Job, the 32nd chapter and the 7th verse on down, that there is a spirit in man. Okay, so the spirit in man gives us the inspiration for everything. So, all praises to the Most High for that. But I'm going to get into a topic about, basically about Esau's kingdom is at an end. And he knows that. He knows his kingdom is at an end. That's why we see the desperate measures of trying to bring white America and white supremacy back to its fullest extent. We know white supremacy has been a thing for a millennia, damn near, right? We see white supremacy has been at its pinnacle during the height of both the British Empire and both the newer empire of the United States. We see that you could say white supremacy, we will say Edomite supremacy, right? It's been at its height really since the Renaissance. And the brother REI, he was going into that because we were talking to a very prominent, well, not prominent, but a hardcore white supremacist at camp. And it took a while for him to actually admit to the fact that he was a white supremacist, because he basically, when we were talking about how, because he said he's from South Africa. I don't know how true that is, because his accent was that of an American. So I don't know how true that is, actually. But he said that he's from South Africa. His accent is American, though. South Africans usually have a little accent, not truly an American accent, but nevertheless. So he said he's from South Africa, and again, the brother REI brought it out, the fact that what is the history of South Africa? Why is Cape Town full of Europeans, people of European descent? And the reason behind this is because of what they like to say, colonialization. That's basically why these Europeans are all throughout South Africa. And we see that too when you look at South Africa demographically. There is a split between the white neighborhoods and the black neighborhoods. The ones that, the inhabitants, the true inhabitants of South Africa, they live in very impoverished places. Now, I'm not an expert on the demographics and the geography of South Africa, but from what I've seen, the videos that I've seen, the information that I've seen that, look, there is a split between the two. It's highly segregated. So segregation, when people want to say there's no racism in the world, segregation is alive and well in these parts of Africa. South Africa is one of them. You know, again, there's a very, very high rate of segregation in terms of the rich and the poor. And we know who the rich is, right? We know who the rich is. The rich are those that, you know, that have this world's good. The Edomites, according to the Bible, is what they would be called. And we know who the poor is. So, yeah, think about it. And let's just say for anybody, right? How can a foreigner come into my country and they're rich, but I'm not? I'm in my own country, right? They come in trying to run everything, trying to run everybody, make all the rules. They come in here trying to run everything and get rich off of the resources that my people are producing into my country. But I'm still poor in my own country. How does that make any sense whatsoever? And so that's just it, you know, again, you have to look at it that perspective. How would that make any sense? How would it make any sense for someone to come into your country? Let's say you're poor in your own country. You're poor. They come into your country, take the resources that you couldn't use, make you work for it, and they take it away from you. Right? They take it away from you, and then they get rich off of your resources and your labor, but they're a foreigner. That doesn't make any sense. So, going back to it was a white supremacist. He's overtly racist, right? He's overtly racist. Okay, so he's openly racist, and he says basically it was a good thing that the white colonialists came in. The white colonialists came in, and they so-called colonialized South Africa, and it was a good thing because guess what? Before it was just mud. It was mud. It wasn't developed. Not knowing the history that guess what? Africa had plenty of kingdoms before the Europeans ever wanted to so-called colonize the land. A great example is the Kingdom of Mali that reigned for about 400 years, from about the 13th century to the 17th century, right? About 400 years. They reigned for 400 years. Mansa Musa, who was the most famous ruler of that kingdom, was emphatically the richest man in history, in recorded history. Mansa Musa was a black man. You mean to tell me that there were no civilizations? So this is white supremacy at its finest, right? Let's look at it from the biblical perspective. The Bible says that in Job, the 30th chapter, if I'm not mistaken, Job, the 30th chapter talks about they were children of what? Men. They were children of fools, of base men, right? This is referring to who? The Edomites. They're children of base men. right? So you have the bases of men ruling the earth right now, right? Now we know, according also to prophecy, that the wicked is bearing rule right now, and they are the bases of men, genetically inferior, but yet they still rule the world. How is this possible? They are in rulership. This is the act of God. This is the act of the Most High, right? This is the act of the Most High. You see what I'm saying? So, with that in mind, we have to make sure that we're when we're combating these people, combating these type of people, these type of people that want to be openly racist and beat their chest that they're white, they're European, they're American, they save the world, basically. That is the mindset of the white supremacists. They saved the world, when in fact they did the opposite. The world was fine, right? Israel was fine before Roman rulership. Israel was fine before Greece rulership. Israel was fine before, you know what I'm saying, like I said, King, Antiochus Epiphanes IV came in and sacked Jerusalem. Israel was fine. Jerusalem was doing fine before that. Likewise, the rest of the world. The Europeans went throughout the whole world. They went to Asia. They went to China, had multiple wars with China. They went into Japan. They went into the Korean Peninsula. They went into Southern Asia. They went into India and took a lot of the resources. And that's actually one of the reasons why India, as a nation, even though they have 1 billion people there, is still very poor. Do your research, fact check it. That's why India is still poor. Because of you Europeans coming in, taking the resources, so-called trying to colonize the land and all this other stuff. And again, there's a judgment for that. Pursuant to what? The Bible. Revelation 13:10. He that leadeth to captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. So the saints are patiently and faithfully waiting for this day to come, to where they can exact vengeance upon those whose the judgment is written. There's a judgment coming to the earth. Judgment day is coming. This is a fact. Judgment is coming. So whether someone understands it, likes it, or believe it or not, everybody must stand before God. And you will have to answer. And again, every nationality will have to stand before God. Every nation. Because the Lord, he also deals with nations. He deals with nations. He doesn't just deal with individuals. Pursuant to what? Genesis and also the book of Acts. When we go into the book of Acts, it says, "And that nation will I judge." That nation. God judged the whole nation of Egypt, even though not every Egyptian was in contact with the ancient Israelites in terms of their slavery and their servitude, but he judged the whole nation of Egypt, right, for their wickedness. So the Lord said, "In that nation will I judge." So it's not just about individual. It's not just about, well, he did it, I didn't do it. We know that the Europeans are different nations, or so-called different nations or countries, that all participated in the same thing. Colonialization, slavery, chattel slavery, right? They all participated in the same thing. And with a specific group of people, the West Africans, people of West Africa, people of North Africa, people of South Africa, who we know that certain tribes are Israelites, pursuant to the curses pursuant to tradition. Okay, you look at the Igbo tribe in Nigeria. They claim to be the descendants of the Judites. Okay, Judah was the fourth son of Israel, according to the Bible. According to the narratives of the Bible, if you read Genesis, the 29th chapter, it will tell you that. Okay? So, there are judgments written. When you go into the book of Psalms, chapter 149, or if I'm not mistaken, Psalm chapter 149, and it talks about the judgment that is written, right? The judgment that is written for the wicked, for them to take up, the saints have to take up arms, and they have to execute that judgment. They have to execute that judgment upon the wicked. And that's what's coming. Pursuant to the book of 2nd Ezra, it talks about the day of doom. What's that day of doom? Like people like to say, doomsday. So if you don't think a doomsday is coming, hey, you're out of your mind. You think America's going to last forever? What kingdom? Show me a kingdom or empire that lasted forever. Can't find it. Rome fell, Greece fell, Babylon fell. All these ancient kingdoms that we see, these empires all fell. So, and what happens is when one empire falls, another takes its place. And it might even become greater and stronger than that previous empire that fell. Okay? So if we just look at it from a logical perspective, no nation on earth can last forever. There's always going to be an overthrowing. There's always going to be a transfer of power. That's Sirach chapter 10 and verse 8. You know, because of unrighteous dealings and riches gotten by deceit, right? The kingdom is translated one to another. So the kingdom can be translated one to another. So one nation commits that wickedness, it can transfer to that other nation. Right? It can transfer to another one. And that's what's going to happen. Right? That's what's going to happen. The kingdom of America, Empire of America, is going to fall. And that power that America once had is going to be transferred to the kingdom of Yahweh Shah, the kingdom of Christ, man. This is thus saith the Most High. But anyways, going back to what we had to discuss about at camp, we was talking to a very racist Edomite, and hey, it's all praise, because we would rather deal with somebody like that that's that he's actually saying what he thinks. Because a lot of brothers, when you bring it out, what I'm saying, and we might be talking to an Edomite, they always want to be covert about it. They want to beat around the bush. They want to say, well, I have black friends. I got 5 black friends. Hey, man, hey, look, be upfront. Just be real. You know what I'm saying? If you don't like us, hey, look, let us know. You know what I'm saying? And then we can actually have a real conversation. But he was coming with all of the Republican rhetoric. And I'm pretty sure he basically was an advocate for, you know what I'm saying? Dan probably can't even say his name because they might flag the channel. But, you know what I'm saying? Hey, the guy that got shot in his neck. You know what I'm saying? Not too long ago, right? Brothers know who I'm talking about. But nevertheless, look, he was coming with all the viewpoints, the rhetoric. And so what we did was we talked about, hey, look, when we're out there, that's why we have to know both the precepts and we have to know the history that comes along with it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. Charlie Merck. You know what I'm saying? Charlie Merck, exactly. We have to know both the precepts and also the history that comes with trying to defend, you know what I'm saying, our people. Because they always try to lie and say per capita, you know what I'm saying, black people commit the most crimes. You know what I'm saying? They might even throw the Hispanics in there, right? But their main agenda was really against Judah. You know what I'm saying? But nevertheless, we were defending our people because look, the lies, hey, John chapter 8 verse 32, the truth shall make you free. So we have to defend the truth. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, how is this devil going to accuse us of committing the most crimes, stealing, robbing, murder, whatever the case may be, knowing that, or he doesn't know that, but the facts say that black people are 7 times more likely to be falsely accused of a crime they did not commit. That's a proven statistic. 7 times more likely, and 7.5 times more likely to be falsely accused of murder. Okay, so that's a real statistic that you can look up right now, and it's going to be pulled up, man. It's going to be right there. You know what I'm saying? So we have to reevaluate and question the statistics that they're trying to bring out to say that black people commit more crimes per capita. Because look, if we're 7 times more likely to be to be falsely accused of a crime we didn't commit, and we also have the highest exoneration rate, what does that tell you? That tells you that we can't trust these statistics. Obviously, right? It's illogical. We can't trust the statistics saying that black people commit the most crimes. We can't trust it. Because again, we know a lot of, you know what I'm saying, white supremacists, they got let off the hook, right? They got let off the hook because, of white supremacy. You know what I'm saying? They commit murder, they commit mass genocide, you know what I'm saying? And these school shooters, same thing. And they just say, well, he was bullied, right? He obviously was depressed. So that, therefore, you know, that's why he killed 10 children, right? Make that make sense, man. Don't you think blacks and Hispanics and natives, and look, Native Americans, if we want to look at Native Americans, they're the most statistically, and look, they're the most depressed, right? Why do you think that they're in terms of like their rate of getting drunk, intoxicated and stuff is very high when it comes to Native American communities? Their alcohol consumption is through the roof because they're depressed. Their land was taken from them. They don't have any money to show for. They're in poverty, right? The places that they live, in the middle of nowhere in the desert. Yeah, they have their communities, but it's a desert. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, hey, look, hey, the natives are depressed. Hey, the blacks and Hispanics are depressed. You know what I'm saying? But we're not shooting up schools, so it's you know we can't just pull that card. But yeah, so yeah, so that's why I encourage brothers, man, and encourage sisters, right? You know, when we dealing with these devils, make sure we're also reading up on all the viewpoints that they come in with, and also the viewpoints that we have to combat them with. You see what I'm saying? Because, you know, hey, y'all gonna see the video later, most I willing, get home and edit it and everything else. But it's a mighty video because the way we dealt with him, we ain't just let him off the hook. We didn't just like not deal with points that he was bringing up. We dealt with all the points, and we made him deal with the points that we were bringing up as well, right? That's how we got to do it. And we hit him with that, boom, boom. Then we hit him with this precepts, boom. You see what I'm saying? So it's a 1-2. It's a 1-2 combo. You hit him with the precepts, then you hit him with the facts. right? Him with the precepts, him with the facts. That's how you tear these devils down, man, right? Because again, you know, hey, his friends was like, hey, look, man, you know, we got to go, right? They couldn't take the heat. They couldn't take the heat. In fact, one Edomite basically just, you know what I'm saying, he was just saying the same thing we were saying to him. So hey, do these devils care? They don't care, man. You know what I'm saying? They do not care. That one Edomite was bad, but the other one was just like, hey, man, it's whatever. So these Edomites don't even care, right? They don't even care. So yeah, but hey, all praise to the Most High, right? So again, yeah, man, John chapter 8 verse 32, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall set you free. That's what it is. That's what we're doing out here. We're trying to be advocate for truth, right? We're trying to be advocate against these devils, man. You know what I'm saying? That's what we're trying to do. And it's a lot of precepts that expose the nature of Esau, man. When you go into Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, read that whole thing, that exposed the nature of Esau, right? Where he goes, you know what I'm saying? He can't stay at home. That's what it will say. Neither a keeper at home doesn't stay at home. You know, Esau, he has to be everywhere at once. You know what I'm saying? He has to be up in Asia. He has to be in South America, Central America. He has to be in, you know, Eastern Europe, Western Europe. He has to be in all throughout Africa, right? He has to be everywhere. That's his nature. So Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, exposes him. We know the whole book of Obadiah exposes his nature. You know, Genesis, right? All throughout the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Imagine being part of the people who's the very Bible condemns and exposes. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, it's a judgment written, man. You know, Isaiah, the 34th chapter, the whole thing. The whole thing. You know what I'm saying? The whole chapter is about the judgment of Idumea. And remember, Idumea is only is really just the Greek transliterated way of saying Edom. All right, that's all it is. So you see the editors, the translators, because that's when you see Idumea in Ezekiel, and you'll see it in Isaiah, and I believe Jeremiah. But that's why you will see Edom sometimes, and you see Idumea sometimes, because the translators chose to use the Greek transliterated way, as opposed to just translating it from the Hebrew, which would be Edom, because Idom, right, from the Hebrew Idom, which means red, right, because they are that red nation, for sure. But nevertheless, they chose to use Idumea, right? And that's funny, because I guess it's just the spirit is like, hey, I don't know if we could put Edom this many times, man. Judgments, kind of gotta, you know, kind of throw them off real quick. Just use Idumea. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, Isaiah 34 chapter. That's a mighty chapter, a cold chapter. You know, encourage brothers to read Isaiah 34. Because within there, and what's crazy too, when you go into the eschatology of it, right? Eschatology is study of end times. So when you go into the eschatology of Isaiah 34, the nature of the phraseology of the chapter is much like Revelation, and it's much like Isaiah, I want to say the 13th chapter, right? Where it talks about how in that place, when the Lord is done with Idumea, when the Lord is done with Edom, there will be a place for jackals and owls, and the bittern shall dwell there. You know, these are animals that are scavengers, they're scavengers in the wilderness, basically. And the Lord always talks about, hey, after this desolation It's going to be an habitation of owls, dragons, right? And wild beasts. You know what I'm saying? That's what it says in Isaiah 13. That's what it says in, Revelation. That's what it says in Isaiah 34. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, that's a pattern right there. That's a pattern right there. It's something that, kind of pay attention to, because it's showing you that, look, the Lord is dealing with the same nation. He's dealing with the same nation. What do I mean by that? Remember that just like how spirits come back on the earth, and look, the spirit of these nations come back on the earth as well. So America, we always like to say, is modern day Rome, and a lot of people in the secular world that don't necessarily believe in the Bible will say that too. I mean, America is modern day Rome. When we look at the legislation, when we look at the system of government, when we look at a lot of the ideals, right, Roman ideals, in many ways, America is like the modern day Rome. So we know that America has the spirit of Rome. Rome had the spirit of Greece, right? We see that these nations have the same spirit back on earth. Look, America's also modern day Babylon. America's also modern day what? Tyre, Zidon. Hey, America's a combination of all these ancient kingdoms and their power mixed in together. That's what it is. So just like how the spirits come back on the earth, right? Elijah came back on the earth as John the Baptist. So just like how that happens, hey, look, America, you know what I'm saying? So the Lord is really dealing with the same nation. So that's why it's a judgment written in Revelation 18. It's a judgment written in Isaiah 34. It's a judgment written in Ezekiel 36. Hey, look, all of these judgments that's written is basically aiming at the same nation, if that makes sense, right? Not necessarily all of the judgments, but when we look at Idumea, we look at Babylon, because then Babylon, it's like, because Idumea is called the daughter of Babylon, pursuant to the book of Psalms, right? O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed. You see what I'm saying? So we know that when we see that judgment for Babylon, we also see that judgment for Edom. It's basically the same thing, right? Because again, even if some parts of it have been fulfilled, hey, look, the Lord, he could deal with dual prophecy. It don't mean that, hey, look, when you say something as a prophecy, it doesn't just happen one time. It can happen a reoccurring amount of times. That's possible. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 68, that's a prophecy, and it can happen multiple times, right? Deuteronomy chapter 28, and I mean, shoot, a lot of verses. We go to that verse in Deuteronomy 28 where it talks about thy feet shall be like with iron, right? And thy wall, roughly paraphrasing, like iron. Roughly paraphrasing. Most of our women brothers can kind of find that Deuteronomy chapter 28. That's talking about what? Prison. You're going to be imprisoned. That we already know that's multiple times that happened. Where our children were taken away from us, that happened multiple times. We were called a byword, right? A proverb, a byword. You know what I'm saying? Among all people, whether the Lord shall lead us and scatter us, that happened multiple times, right? So again, these prophecies can be reoccurring. You know what I'm saying? So if we read Isaiah 13, and we see partly that happened to the Babylonians, where the Medes came in and did ransack Babylon and take it over, we see that these things can happen multiple times. You know what I'm saying? Because again, it's going to happen to what? The actual the modern day Babylon through the Spirit. You see what I'm saying? So you come. So, but all praise to the Most High, man. We just prophesying until that day, until the Lord, Yahweh Shah, can come back and beam us up in the chariots. Most High willing, we're part of that number, man. We just had a brother fall asleep in the Lord, by the name of Gideon, of WFI Seattle. So, Most High willing, that brother is resting, and, Lord willing, he's the first one on the chariot, man. You know what I'm saying? The Lord said, blessed are those that die in the Lord. You know? So that's a blessed thing, man, to die knowing that you died for something that you believe was right and is right. You know what I'm saying? Like I like to quote the mighty brother, the mighty elder Zabak. You know, he said something very mightily, man. He said, you know, something about dying for the truth, but then he said, hey, look, you're going to die anyway. And that's true, right? Why not die for something that you believe is right? You know what I'm saying? Which is, again, the truth is right. It's helping our people. You're dying for the truth. You're dying because you stood up for the truth, right? So when you put it like that, it's like, damn. I mean, we're all gonna die. You know what I'm saying? I mean, that's that's written. You know what I'm saying? But so if you can die, the Lord said, you know, Psalms, I believe the 116, I believe. But he said, good in the sight of the Lord is the death of all his saints. That's pleasing in his eyes, man. Pursuant to Revelation 2 and verse 13 on down, the Lord said, wherein my faithful martyr, right, Antipas, you know what I'm saying, who is my faithful martyr, right? So Yahweh Shah literally gave a shout out to Antipas, man, because he was a martyr. He died for the Lord. He died in the name of the Lord. You know what I'm saying? So Lord willing, like I said, the brothers is resting peacefully. That was our last brother in Seattle. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, but you know, prayers are going up for him and his family, and Lord willing, the Lord rains down blessings upon him, right? And pray the Lord can watch over his family. So with that, all praise to Yahweh B'Shem HaMashiach Yahweh Shah. Lord willing, words are edified through the Spirit. The water for tuning in through the Spirit. Kwam Yashala. We got next. What was HOI say? All the camps in Yahweh Shah. God, peace and blessing, man. Shalom.